Somewhere on your credit history, there's a late payment, and you've probably been told it haunts you for 7 years. Here's what nobody explains. A lender doesn't see all late payments the same way. Some barely matter. One kind matters enormously. And the definition of late is probably not what you think. I'm Brad Haynes, a Washington mortgage loan originator. I work with first-time buyers in credit-challenged files. The buyers other lenders turn away. Late payments are the most common blemish there is. More people have a 30-day late than a bankruptcy or a collection. So let's get precise about what actually counts and what actually hurts. Start with the myth that scares the most people for no reason. You paid your card on the 20th instead of the 15th. You got hit with a late fee. You've been calling that a late payment ever since and quietly assuming it's on your record. Here's the truth. For a mortgage lender, a payment isn't late until it's at least 30 days past due. The industry counts lates in buckets. 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. Paying inside the month, even after the due date, even with a late fee, that's a matter between you and your late fee. It is not a credit late. It never reported. It doesn't exist in your file. So before you count yourself out over all my late payments, get clear on whether they were ever actually late in the way that counts. A lot of people are carrying guilt over lates that were never reported anywhere. Now, the part that changes how you protect yourself. Not all real lates are equal. There's a hierarchy. Consumer lates, a credit card, a store card, a personal loan, hurt your score. That's real damage, but it's damage that fades with time and clean history stacked on top. Housing lates, rent, and above all, a mortgage are different. Underwriting treats your housing payment as the single best predictor of whether you'll pay the next one. A late mortgage payment isn't just a score problem. It's an eligibility question with specific counting rules. And here's a twist about rent specifically. On the channel I work through, and every lender differs. On some loans, your rent history never even gets pulled. But on exactly the files I work most, lower credit scores, the harder approvals that need a human underwriter, rent history gets checked closely, and at the lower end of the score range, the tolerance is 0 lates for a full year. The buyers with the least room on their score get the strictest look at their rent, which makes the next two pieces of advice matter most for exactly the people watching this video. 1. Pay your rent traceably. If you pay in cash, underwriting needs bank statements showing the exact rent amount leaving your account every month. Untraceable cash rent has sunk files that a simple bank transfer would have saved. Checks, transfers, a payment app tied to your account, tied to your accounts. Anything with a paper trail. 2, and this one's for the person living with family. Rent-free time can still count toward your housing history. Living at your parents' place to save money doesn't disqualify you for having no rent history. That gap you're worried about may not be a gap at all. But here's what surprises people about the counting rules. The window underwriting scans hardest is the last 12 months, and the tolerance is more generous than the fear. On some loan types, a file can still get automated approval with a couple of 30-day lates in that window. In some cases, even a single 60-day late. One bad month from years ago is not the wall people imagine. What underwriting wants to see is the recent story. The last 12 months, clean. Which means the practical rule is simple. Whatever else slips, the housing payment never does. If money gets tight, the mortgage or rent gets paid first, every time, because that's the payment your future loan file lives and dies on. 3 things, straight. The bar tightens as the credit score drops. At the lower end of the score range, the tolerance for recent housing lates goes to 0. Clean 12 months, period. So the buyers with the least room on their score also have the least room on their payment history. Why? If that's you, every single month matters right now. Partial payments count as late payments. Sending half the mortgage payment doesn't buy you half credit. A law writing containers, underwriting treats it as a late. If you're in a tight month, know that before you decide what to send. And you can't cure it at the finish line. If a mortgage goes 30 or 60 days late, catching it up right before closing doesn't erase it for qualifying. The record is the record. which is one more reason to get someone looking at your file early, before a fixable situation becomes a waiting period. So if late payments are the reason you've been telling yourself not yet, first find out whether they were ever real lates at all. Then find out what your last 12 months actually look like to an underwriter. Both of those take about 10 minutes, the call is free, and nothing gets pulled. You might be carrying a record that's cleaner than your memory of it. And agents, the buyer who confessed, "I've had some late went quiet," half the time, those lates never reported, and half the rest are outside the window. That matters. Send them my way before they sentence themselves. That's the file I work.